guys, what's up? It's Katie and I'm back with another Marvel Contest of Champions video. And today we're going to be going over more of the Act 5 series with 5.3.4 Foul Conclusion. And so I'm making this Act 5 series for a few reasons. The first is I want to familiarize myself more with Act 5 because I get a lot of questions regarding Act 5, and it's been a long time since I've gone through it, so it's pretty hard to remember. And also, I've got a few friends who have started playing the game, and there are a lot of new people out there that are, new players who have looking to get some good Act 5 guides with relevant champ information to, 2019. So I'm going to do my best through, walk through the past, the bosses, the nodes, that sort of thing with relevant champ information to 2019. So the first thing that I want to do is go over this spreadsheet that I have here. Now there will be a link to this spreadsheet in the description of the video. I have all of the past laid out that I've created. Now with some of these, you can go back and kind of choose your own way. So it's kind of like that. But this spreadsheet has all the paths that I've created, the nodes, and a description of the nodes, and also of, the mobs that you'll be facing. Some are hidden in this path, they're not, so you don't have to worry about that. And then I've also have a link here to the map, so you can go ahead and click on the link, download the map and use it to your advantage. If you're scouting out the past, figure out, what mobs you're going to be facing, the nodes that they have, and so, who you can kind of see who you want to bring in for this fight. Now, like I said, there are a description of all of the buffs in 5.3.4 here, and as well as the boss with the links that he has going to him. Now, 5.3.4, it causes you to have a diverse roster, and the reason for that is because every champ has reduced attack by 50% except for Cosmic. Now, paths 1 and 3 are probably the easiest, and they're probably going to be the ones that you want to go ahead and clear for your first time through. Path 3 is unnoted, and it doesn't require a key to get through, so it may be your best bet. You will need to use some keys in order to complete the path, so if you see down here, you're going to need a Cosmic, Tech, and Mystic key in order to go ahead and complete the map in its entirety. Excuse me. Now, so let's go ahead and take a look at the map. And so I've got it broken down into 5 paths. Now, paths 4 and 5, I have a video on, so I'm not going to go ahead and start into too much detail there, but let's go ahead and take a look at where we will go. So we'll start here, and for path 1, path 1 is pretty easy. You go through here and you go through Rhino and Cap. They're not too hard. Remember, keep Rhino pinned up against the wall. He's not really a hard fight. Cap, OG Cap, just bait out those special ones. Nothing too fancy there. And then you go down here. Now you will need the Cosmic key to continue with path 1. And you go through Kamala Khan. Now, all of the bosses on this path have Special Lock 1 and Mystic Ward. Now, the cool thing about Special Lock 1 is if you need to heal up a little bit, once you get that debuff on you when you've reached 1 bar of power, you'll actually heal up a little bit if you have willpower turned on. So it's kind of a nice little go-to kind of quick heal for you. So we've got Kamala Khan. She's nothing you got to really worry about too much. Then we go over here to Drax. And then on to Gamora. Watch Gamora's special 1. Sometimes it can come out of nowhere and it can pack a pretty heavy punch. And then we move on to Carnage. And so when we go up here, we can either shoot this way over here through Venom, or we can shoot up and go through Nebula. Now, I just chose to go through Venom, but you could go kind of either way you wanted to go to. Now, with Venom, remember, bait out those special ones. Once he gets to his special 2, if he fires his special 2, he can convert all of the buffs that he has into Furies, so he's gonna hit really hard. All right, and then we move on over to King Groot. Definitely bait out those special ones. You don't want to push him to his special 2. It's harder to punish. And also be careful of when he has his Furies up that he doesn't shrug off your parry. All right, and then we move on over to Ronin. Definitely bait out those special ones. Don't get clipped and get stunned, and then you'll get punched in the face. And then we move on over here to Angela, where once you take down Angela, she removes the power gain from Hyperion. So that's always a good thing. Never good fighting Hyperion with power gain. Let's face it, he's already got that. And then we finally move on, like I said, over to Hyperion. Now, path 2, you can come over this way, and you go through Magneto and Psylocke. Now, really, in all actuality, I went through what's essentially path 1, 3, 4, and 5 3 times, or excuse me, 1, 3, and 4 3 times, and just path 2 once. But you could kind of break it up, go through it however many times you want. That's kind of like a choose your own adventure. I just thought it was easier to go through Rhino and OG Cap versus Magneto and Psylocke, but it's however you want to do it. And then we come down here and you will need a tech key to get through here, where you'll face Howard the Duck. And for path 2, it has Bane of Damala and Burden of Might. So if we go back over here and we look at our chapter 5.3.4 buffs, Bane of Damala to the defender gains X% additional damage and has X% life steal as long as the attacker is under a beneficial effect. So the more buffs you have, the more that is. And then Burden of Might, this one can kind of be problematic. The opponent's power gained by striking or being struck by the opponent is reduced by X% for each buff currently active on them. Additionally, each time a buff activates on them for any reason, they lose X% of their max power. So a lot of the cosmic champions, they do gain a lot of buffs. So that's where kind of that Burden of Might is going to be kind of a big pain in the butt. However, Hyperion is really great for this, despite that, because he gets his specials so fast. He's got a power gain, so you really don't have to worry about that. So we got Howard the Duck. He's not too hard. Just be wary of that potential that he has for the Thunderquack or the regen. It's kind of better if he gets the regen over the Thunderquack, because if you get that Thunderquack on you, you're going to degen. Just try to parry him as soon as he gets to about 50% and to 20%. All right, so then we move on to Civil Warrior. Not too hard. Both of his specials are pretty easy to dodge. And then we move on to Ultron. Be wary of his evades, so just be careful of that. And then we move on to Age of Ultron. Ultron, kind of same way. Watch his regen at 50% and 20%. And then we move on to OG Vision. Watch that synthesis. Medusa is really good for this path because of the amount of robots that are on there, so she can shut down the robots. And then, like I said, you can either shoot over here and go through Venom, or you can shoot over here and go through Nebula. I chose to go through Nebula and through Yondu. Definitely try to bring a bleed immune for Yondu. And then on over to Starkey. Venom is great for this. He'll stop Starkey's evades, so you don't have to worry about that. And then we move on over to Vulture, who removes stun immunity from Hyperion, so you'll be able to parry him, which is fantastic. And then on to Hyperion. All right, and then we go through path 3, which, you know, we can start here at Rhino, or we can start over here at Magneto. It just depends on how you want to go. And then you come down here and you, excuse me, it'll come through here, and this path is all unnoted, so you don't have to really worry too much about that. But you've got Miles Morales, so you want to be careful of the evades. If you bring Venom, he'll stop his evades, so that's always really good. If you don't have Venom, try going for just 3-hit combos. If you don't have a Cosmic, you know, you may want to bring in a skill champ for this. It just all depends. And then you move on to Cosmic Spidey. Again, great for Venom. And then on over to Rogue. Be careful that she doesn't shrug off your parry. And then on to X-23, her regen, she's going to get a good bit of regen, but still not too hard. And then on over to Falcon, try to push him to his special 2. It's a lot easier to dodge than his special 1. Moving on over to Daredevil Netflix. Again, he's not a hard fight. Both his specials are pretty easy to dodge. And then we move on over to Nightcrawler, and Nightcrawler is probably going to be the hardest champ you have on this path, just because it can be a little tricky to get him to switch over into swashbuckling mode. So if you have problems switching him to swashbuckling, just try to do 3-hit combos. Or also, if you have Vision Arcus, if Vision Arcus puts a cold snap on him, then he won't be able to evade. And then you shoot on over. You can either go through Luke Cage here, or come on over and go through Iron Fist. I decided to keep it all unnoted and go through Luke Cage, so just be wary of that Indestructible. He'll have that at the beginning of the fight, obviously, and he can get it, you know, more than once. Just all depends on how fast you kill him with that timer. And then we've got Colossus. Not too hard. He's a pretty easy fight. Both his specials are pretty easy to dodge. Gonna want to bring someone with an armor break. So like OG Thor, he's a great option for that. And then move on over to Punisher, and he removes buff duration from Hyperion, and just be wary of that Endure. at the end. So if you have someone that has ability accuracy reduction, that would be great. And then you come on down through Hyperion. So then now this is where the fun begins. So let's go ahead and take a look at path 4. And so I started off going through Rhino. Now again, Rhino is unnoted. So all you really want to do is be careful of the unblockable and the unstoppable. You want to play him close, right? So try to, get him backed up against the wall, cornered up against the wall so he can't charge you and have the potential to go unblockable. So keep that in mind. He is pretty good at throwing his specials, and both his specials are pretty easy to dodge. All right, so now we're moving on to OG Cat. And you're definitely going to want with OG Cap to try to bait out those special 1s over the special 2s. If you have problems baiting out those dodging those special 2s, you want to dash back right before the shield hits you, and that's a good way to do it. Otherwise, this is a pretty standard fight. Medusa is great for this. She gets those Furies, and plus, if you are in a pinch, she can get that auto block feature, which you will see does save me a couple times. All right, and so now we're moving on to Scarlet Witch. Now, Scarlet Witch and the rest of the mobs on here have physical resistance and immunity. Now, the immunity, I don't know why Kabam chose to just say immunity, because they're only immune to bleed. So that's all you got to worry about. If you bring in a bleed champion here, it's not going to work, but you can still parry them, and other debuffs are going to work on them. So the problem with this path, though, is once you get to path 3, once you're done with Rhino and OG Cap, is they are all mystics. So if you bring in only cosmics, you are going to have the class disadvantage. But you can make up for it if you bring in science champs so that you have the class advantage. So keep that in mind. Now, again, hype will work for this Burden of Might because, of his power gain, and, they don't expire, or they do expire, but champs like Angela, they're going to have a bit more of a problem. Now we're moving on to Loki, and he's not really that hard of a fight. You want to try to push him to his special 2. It's definitely easier to dodge and easier to punish. The thing about Loki is with his special 1, if you're too far back when you go to dodge, you won't be able to punish. He'll either parry you and hit you in the face or just come out and hit you in the face. So either way, it's not good. So it's just easier to push him to his special 2. Now, Vision Arcus is a great option for this because of his power gain buffs. Now, they don't expire unlike Hyperion's, and he really won't be affected too much by Burden of Might, much like Hyperion is, But overall, Loki, not a hard fight. Now, Vision Arcus is pretty good for this whole path and some other one, and path 5, which you will see later on. All right, now we're moving on to Juggernaut. And what you really want to be careful with Juggernaut is you got to watch the unstoppable, right? So champs like Spider-Gwen, She-Hulk, and Cap Infinity War, even though they are not cosmic champs, they do have the class advantage, so they won't suffer as much by their attack reduction, and they'll also, because they will have the class advantage. So you definitely want to keep that in mind when you come against a Juggy here. Otherwise, he's not that hard. If you bring in also an energy-based attack champ, they would work out really well against Juggernaut here. So just kind of keep that in mind. Otherwise, you can go ahead and bring in your heavy hitter, someone that's going to gain power pretty quick. Hype would be great for this too. Angela's not that great because of that Burden of Might. All right, now we're moving on to Mordo, and this guy can be kind of tricky because if you try to parry him, he can get that astral evade if you go and attack right after your parry. But the good thing about Vision Arcus is, like Iceman, he puts a cold snap on the opponent. So with Mordo can't evade with the cold snap on him. So bringing Vision Arcus in is a really good option for this fight. You want to be careful of the power gain with Mordo, and when he's charging his heavy, you don't want to get hit by that because he's going to start hitting like a truck when he gets all of those Furies up. So be mindful of that, and you also don't want to get clipped by his special 2 because otherwise, oh man, is that going to be rough. Now, Angela, again, she's not really a great option for this. As you can see, I took a couple punches to the face, but just be mindful of Mordo. He can be kind of tricky sometimes. All right, so now we're going against Dr. Voodoo, Now you don't want to get hit by Dr. Voodoo's special one, or you will get poisoned from that spirit venom. Now, luckily, Medusa is poison immune, so she's not affected by that. But overall, this isn't a hard fight. You just kind of want to bait out those specials. Dr. Voodoo's special 1 is easier to evade than his special 2. So if you can keep him at that, that is ideal. Now, I should also remind you that Medusa's bleeds, Medusa is great for this whole path because of her furies, but however, her bleeds won't proc because this whole path is bleed immune. So keep that in mind if you have Medusa and you do go ahead and choose to bring her in. But she's a great option for this path because she can hit pretty hard and get that armor shatter on to help with that physical resistance. All right, so now we're moving on to Guillotine. And Guillotine, she's a pretty easy fight. Both of her specials are easy to dodge. You just want to be careful of those heavies. Sometimes they can kind of come out of nowhere, especially when you have her backed up against the wall, so be careful of that. But overall, Guillotine's not too hard of a fight. Again, Medusa is awesome for this. That armor shatter she gets really helps cut back on some of that physical resistance. All right, so now we are moving on to the Hood, and the Hood can be kind of a pain in the butt to get that first special 1 out of him, but once you get that first special 1 out of him, he usually starts just chain throwing those special 1s, so definitely keep that in mind. You definitely want to bait out those special 1s over pushing him to his special 2. You don't want to get him to go invisible because then he gets a little bit harder to fight. If you don't have like any good cosmic champs for this path, you can always bring in a science champ, like I said earlier. That way you get the class advantage and it helps negate some of that attack reduction from the global node. So keep that in mind. If you may not have some of the best cosmic champs, you can always bring a class advantage champ in here. So keep that in mind when you're kind of building your roster. So take a look at that map, download it, and use it to your advantage as you're going through this chapter. Now again, Hyperion, he's a great option for this because he is basically always gaining power. He's able to get to his specials real easily, so that burden of might really isn't too much of a problem. With the physical resistance though, you definitely want to build up your furies with Hyperion before you launch that special 3. All right, so now we're moving on to Thor Jane Foster, and keep her at her special 2. It's much easier to dodge than that special 1. Sometimes you can get clipped, at least I can get clipped with the end of that special 1 and get some shocks on me, which is no bueno. But overall, Thor Jane Foster, she's not that hard of a champ to fight. Really, once you get past Mordo on this path, the fights become so much easier up until you get to the boss fight, which is Hyperion. All right, so now we're moving on to Iron Fist. Now, Iron Fist, there's nothing too special about him. He still has physical resistance and immunity. So, but overall, this fight is a pretty standard Iron Fist fight. Just go ahead and bait out either one of his specials. They're both easy to dodge. Nothing too fancy here. Like I said, if you need to bring in a science champ, by all means, go for it. Captain Sparkles, if you can keep Captain Sparkles in binary mode, she would be great for this path. Just keep those furies up. She can get up to 5 when she has 25 charges. So keep that in mind when you're kind of thinking about which champions you would want to bring in. All right, and so now we're moving on to Dormammu. Now, Dormammu unlinks Enhanced Special 2 from the boss Hyperion. Now, Dormammu, he's really not a hard champ to fight. The only thing you gotta remember is that you will get some degen on you, so keep that in mind. The best way to negate getting that is to bring in a champ whose buffs aren't going to expire. So Vision Arcus is great for this because his buff, the power gain buff, is permanent and it does not expire. However, Hype's power gain and his Furies both expire. So you can see that power gain expired and we got the degen on us now and it is ticking away. Look at that thing ticking away. So that's not good. But overall, it's not a hard fight. Definitely bait out those special 1s from Dormammu. They're a lot easier. And we'll take a look at the Hyperion Hyperion boss when we go over path 5. So path 5, what we're going to do is we're going to shoot right up the middle, go right through the middle. Now this is the shortest path, but this is the hardest path. And the reason for that is because all of the champions on here have power reserve and cornered. So we're going to start off with Ant-Man here. And this fight, this is a marathon fight because of the glancing. So with power reserve, you know, both your specials and their specials cost excuse me, X% less. So you'll be able to reach your specials faster and they'll be able to reach their specials faster, which sounds ideal, but they can really start chain throwing those specials, right? So you get them up to 2 specials, they'll launch the special 2 and they'll be back at a special 1 and they can almost instantly launch that special 1. So be mindful of that if you're going to go in and punish, just be mindful of that. But this Ant-Man fight, it's a test of endurance. I will tell you that with all of his glancing. So be mindful of that. Even with hype, he's such a heavy hitter when he gets all his furies up, but this is definitely a test of endurance with this Ant-Man fight. Okay, so now we're moving on to Cable. And with Cable, you definitely don't want to bring in a bleed champ. So someone like Venom would not be a good option for this fight. With this whole path, you can get backed into a corner real quick because of the power reserve and cornered. So with cornered too, you don't want to bring any champs that will put debuffs on the opponent because that's just going to make them your opponent gain power faster. So keep that in mind. Locked with power reserve, that could turn into a special 3 pretty quickly. Now, the thing you got to remember about Cable is Cable can get regen and he can get power gain also. So when he gets the power gain buff coupled with cornered and coupled with power reserve, don't push him above too far above 2 bars of power. Otherwise, you could be looking at a special 3 again very quickly. Now, I do prefer to evade Cable's special 2 over his special 1. It's just easier for me, but you see how quickly I got pushed back into the corner, but luckily I was able to launch the special 3 here with Arcus and, you know, kind of get some space in between me, get me out of that corner. It's not a good place to be stuck in the corner. I hate being up against the corner, even when I play Quake. Just kidding. Maybe a little. But overall, this whole path is really just a test of endurance. You need to be patient with these fights. You need to bait out the specials. You don't want to be too aggressive, because if you come in too aggressive, you're going to push your opponent to the special 3, and you're going to end up having to use pots, revives, and potentially even units. So keep that in mind to try to keep your resources at, you know, you're using resources at a bare minimum. Okay, so now we're moving on to Agent Venom, and Agent Venom can be kind of tricky because of his tenacity where he can shrug off your parries. So keep that in mind whenever you parry him. Maybe wait a second before you go in and start swinging to make sure that that stun has stuck and you don't go in to hit and he starts punching you in the face instead. So keep that in mind. What is nice about this is I do prefer baiting out Agent Venom's special 2 over his special 1. It's easier, although you don't really take too much damage from the special 1 if you know how to block it. The only thing you want to do is evade the punches and the kicks and then just block the bullets, and you really won't take that much block damage from it. The bullets don't really do too much when it comes to block damage wise. So keep that in mind when you're facing Agent Venom. If you do bring in a champ that's going to put a debuff on him, he's going to shrug it pretty easily. So keep that in mind as well. OG Thor, he's great for this. There's a lot of newer champs, new cosmics that are pretty good for this path as well. Okay, now OG Spidey. This guy can be kind of a pain in the butt because of the evades. However, Vision Arcus, again, like with the Mordo fight, is great for this because of the cold snap that he puts on him. So whenever Vision Arcus has a cold snap on any champ that evades, like OG Spidey, they will not be able to evade. So keep that in mind when you're kind of debating on what champs to bring up here. Now, of course, Venom is always great against the Spideys. However, with the bleeds that he can put on, that may not be the greatest for the cornered portion of this node. Now, the good thing about this power reserve is I always prefer to bait out the special 2 of Spidey versus the special 1 because I'm not that great at dodging the special 1, and I usually, just block the web shots and take, and then dodge, I block the web shots and then dodge the punches, or I attempt to. Doesn't always work, but the special 2 is much easier to dodge. All right, so now we're moving on to Red Hulk. Oh, and one thing I want to mention too about OG Spidey is if you don't have someone that can stop the evades, just going into a basic 3-hit combo is always great against facing any evade champ so that they don't come back and punch you in the face. All right, so Red Hulk. Now, Red Hulk's not too hard, except, when he does get up to 10 heat charges, he can start hitting like a truck even through your block. So keep that in mind. Now, ideally, you would want to bait out the special 1s over the special 2s, but with power reserve, that's not always, the best thing that can happen. However, the good thing about having him launch his special 2 is that he does consume the heat charges so that he will not be, hitting as hard. So keep that in mind. It's not great, but it's better than what it could be. If you bring in a heavy hitter like Angela or Hyperion, that's going to be great. Hyperion will get specials so quickly, you'll just be launching special 3 after special 3 after special 3. So keep that in mind. But overall, Red Hulk, not too hard of a fight. Okay, and now we're moving on to Green Goblin, and this guy can be kind of a pain in the butt because of the constant regen that he gets. Definitely try to bait out those special 1s. If you're good at dodging his special 2s, that is the ideal one that you want to get to. If not, try baiting out the special 1s. But if you can push him to his special 2, bait out those special 2s, and you're great at dodging it, by all means. If not, just try to block where he kind of takes his little hoverboard into you, because that's going to do a good bit of damage, and then, block the super bomb off the special 2. If you bait out the special 1s, block the beams, and then, just dodge back on that last grenade that he throws at you, and you should be fine. You definitely don't want to punish his special 1 if you're far away. Otherwise, he's just gonna parry you and then punch you in the face, or just come back and punch you in the face. So keep that in mind when it comes to punishing Green Goblin's specials. But overall, not that hard. If you have a heal blocking champ, if you don't have, a cosmic, if you bring in a tech, your attack's going to be cut back by 50%. So you definitely want to keep that in mind when it comes to Green Goblin here. Now, Wolverine, he can be kind of a pain in the butt. But both of his specials are easy to dodge. However, he does get that regen, and this is definitely a little bit of a marathon fight. Not quite as much as it was with Ant-Man and the glancing, but because of the regen that he gets, it's definitely gonna be a little bit more of a marathon because of the node with the power reserved, and how much he regens back is based on his power. So keep that in mind when you're bringing in a champ here. Now, if you don't have a good cosmic to bring in against Wolverine, there are lots of great tech champs that heal block. You've got Yondu, Iron Man Infinity War, Sentinel. They're really good options for the heal block that you could bring in. You would get the class advantage. So again, you would be able to negate some of the global node when it comes to attack reduction. So keep that in mind. But just be patient, when it comes to these fights. These fights, they are going to push your patience and your endurance a little bit. So just be patient when it comes to them. Don't try to rush through them. Otherwise, again, you could eat a special 3 to the face, and that's no fun. All right, now we're on to Gambit, keeping it in the mutant family. Excuse me. Now, Gambit, he's not too hard. His special 1, definitely want to be careful of that last little card he throws at you, that if you get clipped by it, you will get stunned. He basically will stun you 100% of the time if you get clipped by it. So be mindful of that. I prefer baiting out his special 2 over his special 1, but that's just me. It's all personal preference when it comes to this. Again, Hype is a great option for this. Medusa is as well. She gets those Furies. And she will get the Armor Shatter too. That will help you out a lot as well. And then you can also put the bleed on them, which is gonna be kind of rough with the cornered, but you'll be able to manage. I have faith in you. But overall, Gambit, he's not that hard of a fight. Just be patient with it, bait out those specials, don't be too aggressive, and that sort of thing. So now we've got Yellow Jacket, and as we all know, Yellow Jacket can be a big pain in the butt when it comes to that power sting. Now, the best way to fight Yellow Jacket is to do 4-hit combos and then back out if he's at his special 1. If he's at his special 2, you don't have to quite do that. You can go back to 5-hit combos. I prefer trying to push him to his special 2. It's much easier to dodge, and I'm less likely to get clipped at the very end of it and get that nasty power sting on you, because remember, with the power sting with Yellow Jacket is if you use your special, you will get stung and you'll lose a certain amount of health based on your power. And if you don't use your special, he will stun you and come back and start punching you in the face. So be very careful of that when it comes to evading his specials. That's why I find his special 2 much easier to dodge than his special 1. And with Power Reserve, it's much easier to keep him at his special 2. So keep that in mind when going in and fighting Yellow Jacket. Okay, and now we are moving on to Hyperion. And Hyperion, when you go down this path, he is fully noted. So he's got unblockable special 2, stun immunity, buff duration, and power gain. Yes, Kabam gave Hyperion power gain. So unless you have a power control champ, you are probably going to eat at least 1 special 3. You can see here, I ate 1 here, and it does not end well for Medusa. One of the best strategies when it comes to fighting this Hyperion is when he gets up to his special 1, just kind of stop attacking him and hope that he throws that special 1, or with the power gain, he gets up to that special 2 and throws it. If you can bring in a power control champ, that is ideal. Now, obviously, it's gonna be tough. Magic is really good for fighting Hyperion. She's got the class advantage, so keep that in mind when it comes to choosing your champions here. Yeah, she'll still suffer from the global node, but like I said, being Mystic and having the class advantage over Hyperion, it'll help negate some of that power, or excuse me, some of that damage, damage reduction. And plus with power, she'll be able, the way he gains his specials so quickly, once you get up to that special 2, just chain throw those special 2s with magic. It's still a really good option for Hyperion. But he is definitely, up until this point, one of the hardest bosses that we have fought up until this point. So, but that's it, guys. That is it for 5.3.4. Foul Conclusion. Now, like I said, this spreadsheet here, it is an active spreadsheet. So if you guys have any suggestions or comments, let me know in the if you have any suggestions, let me know in the comments to this video, and I will do my best to make some updates as we go, since it is an active spreadsheet. But who did you use if you went through Act 5.3.4? Who will you be using? Will you download this map? Did I miss anything? Let me know in the comments below and let's discuss. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching. If you guys liked what you saw and you want to see more, please remember to like and subscribe, follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and hit me up in the Discord chat. Thanks, guys. Bye.